I feel that a pandemic is something that obviously affects many, many, many people. Many people will have different considerations, priorities, so there'll be perfectly reasonable arguments on both sides. There'll be people saying, hang on a minute, I don't like anything that grants more power to centralised authorities. And there'll be some people that...
That's me. I don't like anything that grants more power to centralized authorities.
Say human life is sacred and we must do whatever we can to protect human life.
That's also me. We must protect people because people are awesome. There wouldn't be no awesome if it weren't for people. Could you imagine? No? All right.
So if taken sincerely, both of those points are valid. The growing number of cases presented another sign of an official Washington that has largely returned to pre-pandemic routines, even as officials still urge Americans to take precautions, and has decided to live with the result. Okay, for the last couple of years, we've lived, let's face it, in unusual times. Times where the media have been vehement and confident and unforgiving in their condemnation of people that wouldn't comply absolutely with all suggested government measures. If you don't get vaccinated as frequently as demanded and boosted as often as suggested and as masked up as rigorously as possible and as locked down in as absolute a way as is conceivable, then you are an enemy of the state. Now, I accept, because I listen to a wide range of differing opinions, that science continually evolves, and therefore what's considered to be right on a Monday might not be considered to be right on a Tuesday. Now, I don't have any opinions on whether you should or should not get vaccinated. But what the actions of the powerful suggest, just taken with regard to this dinner, forget all the parties throughout the pandemic within British politics and the other events you're aware of, the governor of California, all that stuff, having do's and parties. What it suggests is what it says in this article is they've decided to live with the consequences.
Now he's talking about the White House Correspondents' Dinner, the one that Trevor Noah was speaking at when he was roasting everyone.
They've made an adult decision. So if they've made that decision for themselves, why can't you make that decision for yourself?
Wow.
That's the question I'm asking. I'd like to be governed by people that participate in the democracy that they want me to live in. That's what I'd like. I'd like to think we all live in this democracy together. I don't want that you live in democracy plus and we live in democracy light.
I mean, but that's the case, though. There will be a democracy plus and democracy light. I like the way he put that. But at the end of the day, hierarchy means something. Everybody are not going to live the same way. And like everybody had to get an x-ray through their booty in order for them to go to the White House Correspondents' Dinner. I don't know. It sounds outlandish, but at the end of the day, if you're asking everybody else to wear your mask and that's what you stand behind, and your correspondence dinner with 2,600 people there, and nobody is, masked up, then what do you expect for Russell Brand to say? He's trying to figure out whether or not they're being fair or they're being hypocrites.
We should all live in it. Don't accept government from people that are not affected by the decisions that they make, not affected by the consequences of their own power, not affected by the consequences of their own corruption. Let's forget the fact that the whole gala of the White House Correspondents' Dinner shows you that the media and the establishment are one coalescent force, bludgeoning you into a state of compliant idiocy with apparent opposition. Oh, we don't like the ones that have got a donkey on their jumper. I don't like the ones that have got elephants on their umbrella. They are all basically the same. And in the
Russell Brand, you do not have to do a separate voice to make fun of people, bro. Your voice is already, different, man. Just do your voice. I mean, it's still dope. I think he's a cool guy. He's fun as hell. All right. Let's talk about
the tiny fissures of disagreement. They'll have a little fireworks party of conflict. Meanwhile, absolute obedience, compliance, and total agreement on the majority of issues. That's a type of tyranny. If you don't have a choice, what is that? That's a kind of a dictatorship with good TV channels, except for when it comes to the news. So really what I'm saying is if they know that they're safe to have that White House Correspondents' Dinner because they could probably deal with the consequences of coronavirus and can make a conscious, adult, sentient, bloody, autonomous decision for themselves, why can't you do that? Because you're an idiot, is the assumption. They're not idiots, you are. You will make the wrong decision, they'll make the right decision. So when you see a politician in shirt sleeves having a beer and a curry, or you hear about what's going on in Downing Street in England, or the various transgressions throughout the American political establishment, then the reason it makes you angry is because you know what it suggests. It suggests that the rules are for you. Those are your rules. You do what you're told. And if you don't, you'll be shamed, vilified, and punished. Meanwhile, we'll do what we need to do. Now, when you also know that political figures have financial relationships with the institutions that ultimately determine the direction of American and global political life, it's frustrating. Because you think, hold on, these are meant to be our elected representatives, not their paid for representatives.
That's
but
right.
we've worked out, haven't we, by now, how democracy really works. The White House correspondent dinner seems to me like a cozy little club. If you can have them parties and still tell Americans to observe precautions, really what's playing out is what happened in microcosm across the pandemic. You do this, we're going to do that. Now they've at least got the stones to do it in broad daylight, to literally fill a ballroom with journalists and political figures and media figures. And they're not pretending anymore. At least the pretense is starting to erode. Journalists across several major news organisations reported testing positive. CNN reported that those infected also included staff members from its network, as well as NBC News, CBS and Politico. Oh no, where will we get our truth from? CNN staff members there, remember how they talked about the pandemic and how they talked about unvaccinated people? I wonder if they'll be condemning on air their own staff.
That is true. That is true. Every single time someone goes to something, goes to an event, and then they find out that the numbers have shot up over the weekend because these events have been happening, and they call them irresponsible and all these things. And they say all they had to do was be responsible. Now,
Mark Leibovich, a reporter for The Atlantic who attended the dinner and who spoke briefly with Mr. Blinken at a gathering the day before, said there was an expectation that some guests would test positive. There was a kind of cruise ship vibe to the dinner, said Mr. Leibovich. But it shouldn't be.
Cruise
what type
ship
of cruise?
vibe.
Hey, we're on a cruise ship. Stay indoors! Stay indoors! What are they saying from over there on the cruise ship? I think they're saying stay indoors. I can't hear from the clinking of champagne glasses. He added that once guests were inside the ballroom, there was no escape from the crowd. Once you're in the ballroom, that's it. I mean, it's one of the challenges of everyday life.
they locked everybody in once you get in the ballroom.
Hi, darling, join me in the ballroom. Oh my God, it's mayhem in here. Quick, seek refuge with the polo ponies. The Post reported that some White House officials were worried that safety measures for the dinner were insufficient. Like, the one place where they could have been stringent about, like, safety measures, because they're there, they weren't stringent. So what does that tell you they think about safety measures? Very good at, oh, you lot, do some safety measures. Swathe yourselves in masks and sanitizers. Oh, right, so you'll be doing that when you have a dinner then? How dare you? We're stinking rich. The virus will take one look at my wallet and do an about turn. Attendees at the White House Correspondents' Dinner are generally privileged and well-connected people. Oh, that's interesting. It's not full of hillbillies and hicks and poor people and trailer park trash and the undesirables and the many people that are condemned and criticised and the majority of people that are unvaccinated, broadly speaking, drawn from those demographics. Oh, what a coincidence. I suppose what this reveals is there is not one society that we are all participating in. There are tiered societies, separate societies. There are establishment elites. And establishment elites do not have to play by the same rules because they're not playing the same game.
No, they're not. And I'll have to say also that my mind is blown away by how quick he is. He's quick-witted. He reads a portion of the article and he's boom, boom, he's on it. He has so much to say. It's like he's fast with it. He's not stammering or anything like I do when I'm doing my reaction videos. He's boom, 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 boom. That's pretty cool, man. I like to watch these videos not only to learn more about what he's talking about, but actually to learn more about how to do these style of videos the way he do them. Because I would like to, I mean, the way I do my reactions, I like giving you guys the different sides. Well, the different reactions, different content, as much as I possibly can. But I want to do it in the best way I can possibly do it so that you guys receive like nothing but quality when you click play on my videos. So this is another plus for me checking out Russell Brand, because the way he delivers his news is absolutely phenomenal, and I appreciate it. Okay, let's go.
This is Caitlin Johnston writing on her Substack. The weekend's White House Correspondents' Dinner saw a gaggle of media celebrities congregate to congratulate one another on what great job they've been doing, bravely telling the truth and holding the most powerful government on earth to account. The host, Trevor Noah of The Daily Show, gushed with enthusiasm about how much freedom the press have in America to say things the powerful don't like. I've met Trevor Noah. He's a decent guy and a good comic, and I've got nothing against Trevor Noah at all, and that's the kind of gig that I would have done one day. And, you know, I recognise the reason I'm not doing it now is because no one would ever ask me to do that for thousands of reasons.
He's about to butt you. See, that's what Stephen A. do. When you're watching sports and he's talking about different basketball players and different teams and different all those things, one thing he does, he'll give you a whole bunch of positives about it, but then he's about to tear your tail up, so watch out for it.
So, like, I'm not criticising Trevor Noah because there's a amnesty among comedians. I'm cool. He's my brother on the path. But the event itself, man, what is it? It's like a backslapping bull that reveals the true nature of that reality. There ain't nothing to lose in there. No one's going to go out and say, you're corrupt, you're corrupt. The reason we're here is to honour and celebrate the fourth estates and what you stand for. An additional check and balance that holds power to account and gives voice to those who otherwise wouldn't have one. Look no further than what's happening in Ukraine, said Noah. In America, you have the right to seek the truth and speak the truth, even if it makes people in power uncomfortable. You understand how amazing that is? I stood here tonight and made fun of the President of the United States of America, and I'm going to be fine. Well, that's not exactly how I would see that situation.
I'm going to be fine.
I could come up with a pretty comprehensive list of things that you wouldn't be able to say safely at that White House Correspondents' Dinner. Not because they're not true, not because they're conspiracy theories, not because they're crackpot stuff, but because they're the kind of conversations that when they're had make you lose faith and trust in the establishment and create tension and make people feel that there needs to be significant institutional change in the way that democracy is run. Caitlin Johnson has a good example of just such a thing here.
I like that. He's saying you're not nearly as free on that stage as you believe you are to say whatever you want to say, because the way that they do in other countries, and they say something and they end up getting murked.
Yeah. Of course, there are people that have said things that US presidents don't like who are not, in fact, fine. Julian Assange continues to waste away in Belmarsh prison as the US government continues its efforts to extradite him. Edward Snowden, an American, remains in exile. Daniel Hale, also an American, sits in prison for exposing the depravity of America's monstrous drone program. If they were hosting the White House Correspondents' Dinner, mask or no mask, I would say that is an example of a functioning democracy. To have Assange and Snowden and Daniel Hale in there, then you say, bloody hell, this is a little bit tense, isn't it? Well, I mean, how's Joe Biden going to deal with this? And coming up next, it's the guy that fixes Hunter Biden's laptop. Trevor Noah did not mention these people or the many others who have been persecuted, silenced, imprisoned and killed for saying things that the powerful individuals who govern the US don't approve of. Far from providing an additional check and balance that holds power to account and gives voice to those who otherwise wouldn't have one, as Noah claims, the people in his audience on Saturday night are tasked with manipulating public thought in facilitation of the interests of the powerful. Yeah, the establishment, generally speaking, isn't comfortable with being critiqued and criticised. You've surely noticed that surveillance is on the rise, that data capture is on the rise, and that censorship and the ability to protest are being eroded and diminished. The government power is increasing. The ability to shut down dissent is increasing. So I don't know, man, that we've got too much to pat each other on the back for. I would say that this event is the opposite of what is being claimed within the event itself. That it's not a demonstration that there is healthy debate and overt criticism of the establishment, but that there is broad agreement within the establishment of what is acceptable. That as long as you're a participant in what I would call kind of liberal, elite, metropolitan democracy, then there is all sorts of diversity within that. But if you start to actually attack establishment values, the relationships between media, big corporations, and the state, the kind of subjects that are never allowed to be discussed within those circles.
Yeah.
And I'm not claiming to understand either of those situations better than you or better than anybody else, but I have noticed certain trends in how the information is presented and controlled that lead me to believe that the White House Gala is much more of tuxedos on, masks off, pat each other on the back, clinking of champagne glasses event rather than a sign of a healthy democracy. Which is why the President of the United States, when he took to the podium that night, had nothing but friendly words for the mainstream press. What's clear, and I mean this from the bottom of my heart, is that you, the free press, matter more than you ever did in the last century, Biden said. We've all seen the courage of Ukrainian people because of the courage of American reporters in this room. Well, another perspective on that is you could just take a look at the career of Pulitzer Prize-winning journalist Chris Hedges, who 10 years ago worked at the New York Times. But today, he's having all his content pulled off of YouTube because he was on RT, talking to like Edward Snowden and Slavoj Žižek, who's won a Pulitzer Prize, who now could never work for the New York Times because the New York Times is a mouthpiece for power and will only criticize power within a certain context. And if you're struggling for an image, a metaphor for how to look at the context within which the media will happily criticize the establishment, imagine a ballroom. with 2,600 people in it, wearing glitzy gowns and tuxedos, pretending to have ribald jokes about one another, but actually all going home with limos from the same limo firm, drinking the same champagne, thinking the same thoughts.
I thought that these news sources were supposed to be non-biased. That's what I thought. I thought it was illegal almost, if that makes any sense. Because it's blowing my mind when so many people are saying that these different media sources, Fox, NBC, MSNBC, CNN, CBS, why do they all have to represent one side or the other? That sucks. I mean, how many are standing on the side of Fox? That's what I want to know. How many are standing on the side of Fox? Because the ones I keep on hearing about are all left wing. Even, I mean, I'm all of them. Washington Post is huge. Like, come on, New York Times, that's huge. What's going on, man? I thought it was supposed to be non-biased. I thought it was supposed to be unbiased.
The past weekend also saw a friendly gathering of brave Fourth Estate truth warriors and political and government operatives in the US empire at a party hosted by the billionaire owner of the neocon war propaganda rag, The Atlantic. Yep, when you see an empire propagandist fraternising with a CIA director while surrounded by media celebrities and government insiders at a party hosted by a media-owning plutocrat, you know you're in a country where power is held to account. Yeah, that's sort of the reality, isn't it? That is the reality. We're used to being kind of distracted by apparent conflict and apparent criticism and apparent diversity, but just listen to that description of what was really taking place. This is your dying empire, America. This is your end stage capitalism. This is your dystopia in all its weird, phony, stupid glory. Well, Kathleen Johnston not pulling any punches there, and it's difficult to look at something like that White House Correspondents' Dinner and feel optimistic about democracy. For a long time, I felt there is no real dissent within the establishment. Any dissent within the establishment ultimately has the same aim as the object of its dissent, the sustenance of establishment power. You're going to have to look outside of that to find real dissent. And by God, you'll find it here. Let me know in the comments below what I've missed that you
do that. Make sure y'all go to the Russell Brand's channel if you haven't already, and subscribe to his stuff. Also, we have a playlist of our own reactions to some of his things, our point of views that are popular, and some of them are popular, some of them are not that popular because I don't stick to any side of the fence. I don't. Yeah. But I do want to hear what you all had to say about this one in the comments below. And if you have yet to hit that subscribe button or the super thanks button, which a lot of you have been hitting, thank you so much. Please make sure you do so on your way out the door. Once again, guys, I'm Van, and now we are all the LFR family, and I look forward to seeing you on the next video and hopefully inside the Patreon as well. Y'all have been amazing, man. Love y'all.